Assume that point A on that demand curve represents a particular business or one of their particular customers. How much consumer surplus is there in this market? How much is the consumer surplus on this graph? $1,750. Where is the consumer surplus on this graph? Graphically, visually. It's the triangle that is under the demand curve at that price. How do we find the area of the consumer surplus? 1/2 the base times the height. The base is 100. The height is from 10 to 45, so it's 35. And we take 1/2 of that. That's 1/2 of 3,500. The consumer surplus is $1,750. That should be old hat, right? We've seen that before. Okay. What does it mean? In simple 1 or 2 sentences, what does consumer surplus mean?
Satisfaction that the consumers get for the amount that they pay.
Almost the way I wanted you to say it. Anybody else?
The money that the company could have made
If
they had raised the price.
No, if they start raising the price, they lose sales.
Or if they had sold more?
No, in order to sell more, they'd have to reduce the price. You're both circling right around it.
Money the company didn't capture when making the sale?
What do you mean they didn't capture it?
Not good enough customer service, or
No, people paid $10.
They could have charged more.
If they charge more, they lose sales.
The customer was willing to pay more?
Say that again.
The customer was willing to pay more?
How do you mean? Customers willing to pay more.
They were going and looking to pay $50 and that person sold it to them for $30.
Perfect. Now I want you to express it cogently, right? This is the amount of money, theoretically, that customers were willing to spend, but did not have to spend because you charged them all $10 each. Some customers, back here, were willing to pay a much higher price to buy those first few units. Consumer surplus is the money that customers were willing to spend, but you didn't ask them for it. And they walked out of the store with money that you should have been trying to get. The issue I want to look at now, tonight, is what are you going to do about it? That's one of my favorite questions in the world. Somebody starts moaning and groaning and complaining. My first thought, often my first question, and frequently the reason I lose friends, is I say, so what are you going to do about it? If I explain this to a business owner, and I said, this is the money that's walking out your door, that those people would have left with you if you knew how to get it. His question better be, what can I do about it? So how do you go about capturing, not all, that's a little extreme, but how do you go about capturing some, at least, of that consumer surplus? So here's kind of an overview of an answer or 3. Answer number 1. Let's talk about price discrimination. Now, in this country, the word discrimination has a very negative connotation. It implies that we're treating some people differently than others. And we like to believe, or at least give lip service to the idea, that we're all equal here. We all have equal opportunity. Okay? So discrimination, that sounds at least bad, if not evil. But in fact, discrimination simply means treating some people differently based on their circumstances. Okay? If you came to me to rent my condo, and I asked you for a rental history, and I found out that you lived here for 4 months, and here for 6 months, and here for 8 months, and that you moved a lot, do you think I would be justified in charging you a higher rent or a higher deposit? Why?
Because the chances of them sticking through the duration of their rent paying the lower amount is very
Yeah.
likely.
The probability or the risk is higher. And so I might say, given your rent history, the rent will be $900 a month, not $7. And I might not say not $7, but I might look at it and say, okay, $900 a month. On the other hand, somebody else came up with perfect rental history, good job, good credit score, all that stuff, oh, $700 a month. Is that fair?
For the owner.
Is it
Depends
fair
which
to
side
the
of equation
renter?
you're on. Depends which side of the equation you're on.
Tell me why it's unfair to the renter.
They're paying more when
Okay, is it unfair for the person who has high mobility and maybe a lack of dependability? Is it unfair for him to have to pay more? Go ask your banker what interest rate he would charge you versus Bill Gates for a loan. What do you think he'll say? Today, the prime rate of interest, the lowest rate charged by big banks to their best customers, 3.25%. They might look at you and say, Bill Gates, 3.25%, no problem. You, Strickland, 11.5%. Why? Because I'm flaky. How about that? Okay? Is that fair? Is that fair to me?
No.
You don't think so? You think I should be able to pay the same rate as Bill Gates? Why? I have riskier behaviors. Why should I be entitled to the same rate as somebody who has solid financial standing? I don't think that's unfair. I don't think it's unfair that the riskier you are, the more interest you pay. Okay? And that's price discrimination. When you and I go to the car dealer, and we're looking at an old used car, talking to the car salesman, would Katie get the same price on that car that I would? How old are you, Katie? 23. Young lady, 23. Old, never mind what I am, guy, old geezer. Would I get a better or a worse price than her?
you'll probably get a better.
I'd probably start off with an advantage, because they would make certain assumptions. They'd say, he's older, he's been around more, he's probably bought more cars, he probably knows what he's going to pay. Is that fair? Is that fair to Katie, that she's going to get stuck with a higher price? As long as she pays that price willingly, I could debate with you the fairness. Okay? So the term discrimination, the way I'm going to use it right now, is not meant to be, it's not meant to be taking advantage of people or trying to treat people unfairly. It's meant to price things to people based on their particular circumstances. Okay? When we talk price discrimination, we're going to talk 3 types. First degree, second degree, and third degree price discrimination. First degree price discrimination, sometimes called perfect price discrimination, is where you charge every buyer his highest price that he's willing to pay. You charge every buyer the highest price he's willing to pay. Who does that?
Car salesman.
The car salesman. His job, when you walk on that car lot, is to sell you a car for as much as you are willing to pay. If this worked perfectly, you would capture, theoretically, you would capture how much of the consumer surplus? Pardon?
Most or all of it?
All, in theory. Capture all of the consumer surplus. Suppose you had a pet store. You sell puppies and kitties and birds and whatever, and all the various supplies and feeds. How would you go about practicing perfect or first-degree price discrimination? At least conceptually. Just conceptually, go ahead.
Try to sell the like expensive one to the
Good, that's a good start. You might bring them in there and say, hi, I see you're looking at some dog food. Let me show you some of the best stuff we got. And you're trying to get, and if he says, well, that's more than I want to spend, well, let me show you the next best we got. And you work him on down till you get him to pay the most he will. And maybe you try to do that with every customer and every product. How tedious, how difficult, how complicated would that be? You bet. You'd have to have one salesperson for every person that comes in. He would have to have a complete and thorough knowledge of every product in your store. And then he'd have to have this little negotiation every time the guy picked something out. Wouldn't work very well, would it? No. This doesn't really work very well in practice unless you're willing to spend a hell of a lot of money on your sales force, which means every time you make a sale, you make a pretty good profit. So it doesn't work very well in most retail settings. Used automobiles, sometimes new automobiles, kind of a little different, little easier. If we were selling airplanes, private airplanes to people, sure, we could try for some of that. Treat each customer differently. But think of it in the theoretical extreme. Man, if you close the business every day, everybody's gone from your pet store, and you sit back and you say, damn, I got every damn dime they were willing to spend. Hoo-yah, let's go to the bar. Okay? Not workable in most cases, but conceptually an ideal. Second degree price discrimination. Let us see here. If you'll buy 3 bags of dog food, they're $60 a bag. But if you want to trade up and buy 6 bags of dog food, I can let you have them for $50 a bag. And if you go ahead and buy a round dozen, I can bring it down to $40 a bag. What am I doing?
trying to sell more products.
Trying to sell more product and bring in more money. Okay? And if you came into the store anyway, thinking, well, I need to stock up for a while and I'm going to need at least a dozen bags of dog food. Boy, I'm made for you. If you'll buy the whole dozen right now, I can give you a pretty good price break. So these are sort of volume discounts to encourage you to buy more. Okay? Volume discounts to try to generate more revenue. Third degree price discrimination. Any of y'all use Fandango to buy your tickets to the movies? Did you ever buy a senior ticket just for the hell of it? Why not? No sense of adventure? You're young enough, they'll know you're kidding. When you get to be about 50, you won't buy one because you'll be saying, I'm not that damned old. Why is it that I, as a senior, can buy a ticket to the afternoon movie cheaper than you can?
Because they know a lot of young people, they already gonna go.
Good. They know that your elasticity of demand for those movies is more inelastic than mine is, typically. Okay? And that, in fact, I might be just content to sit home until it comes out on Netflix. Is that fair? That I get a better price on a ticket than you do? Is that fair? I certainly think so. Okay? Price discrimination, third degree, is when you're selling to different markets. And therefore they have different elasticities of demand. What that means is some of them are willing to pay more than others. Loosely, okay? Why is it that if you go to the movie at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's cheaper than going to the movie at 6 in the evening?
Because a lot of people, they prefer to go later.
You bet. The demand elasticity is more inelastic for later movies. And so if you want to bring people into the afternoons, you got to give them some incentive, i.e. a lower price. Okay? Now what's got to happen here? You've got to have markets with different elasticities. Old people, young people. Okay. Second thing, you've got to be able to segment those markets so you can tell them apart. Okay? That's why for you, you get a student break with a student ID on some things. I get a geezer break with a geezer card, and the poor people in between us, they pay full rate. All right? So, what have we said so far? You've got to have different elasticities, different markets. You've got to be able to segment those markets and identify them. You've got to know one from the other. And one last thing in order for this to work. I can't go buy my senior ticket, my geezer ticket, and sell it to you, a young person. Why? Why is that the rule? Why can I not sell my geezer ticket to you and you get in for a cheaper price? Everyone would. I would be buying 200 tickets a day at the damn movie and saying, hey, you want to buy a geezer ticket? Hell, I'm living on dog food at home anyway, and he'll help you. What do we call it when you buy something at one price and sell it at a better price?
Scalping.
Selfish is a good word. I like that word. Kind of warms my heart. What else?
Scalping.
Scalping. Scalping is a good word. In economics, we have a much cleaner, more sophisticated sounding word. We call it arbitrage. When you can buy something for a low price in one market and sell it for a higher price in another. And so for third-degree price discrimination to work, you must not allow arbitrage. There must be no arbitrage opportunities. And in fact, what prevents me from selling my geezer ticket to you? Presumably the ticker taker's going to look at it and say, huh, you don't look that old. So I can't make a living doing that. You with me okay so far? One of the first thoughts in terms of, gee, I got a business, I'm making so much money. Gee, I remember Strickland said something about a demand curve and consumer surplus. Wow, I wonder how many people in here I could get more money out of. First thought is, any kind of price discrimination you could apply to that situation. Could you give some people a break over others? Could we give a break to our really good regular customers? Do they do that? You bet. I bought dog food the other day at PetSmart with my little card and got my, every time I buy 10 bags, I get a free one. Sure. That's price discrimination. They are giving me a break for being a customer. In a sense, it's kind of a blend in here, sort of a second degree. If you buy enough bags, here's one free. But it's some way to favor some people for whatever reasons. And maybe not to favor other people because they're willing to pay for it anyway. Okay, so far? First cut on consumer surplus, the different types of price discrimination.